Dead by Daylight launched in 2016 with a cast of original killers and survivors inspired by the horror archetypes of the 80s golden age of slasher cinema. As the game quickly grew in popularity, developer Behaviour kickstarted an ambitious plan to see if they could bring together horror's most iconic villains under its umbrella. It set out to do for horror what Fortnite did for pop culture, creating a terrifying metaverse unlike any other. But doing so had its challenges.
Should we use the rocket launcher in the Mori?
We don't want to put kids on a meat hook.
We spoke to the creative minds behind Dead by Daylight to get to the bloody heart of how they overcame such challenges and, over the following years, summon horror's most iconic villains into the game. Behaviour didn't begin Dead by Daylight with a cast of recognizable faces. Before Freddy Krueger and Michael Myers, the studio launched the multiplayer survival horror game with 4 original killers and 5 survivors that were created in-house but designed to evoke the style of the iconic 80s horror golden age.
The first originals, these guys up there, were really inspired by, obviously, the classics of the horror world, the slasher movies of the 70s and the 80s. So for us, it was always sort of part of the DNA of what we were building.
The meticulous designs of Dead by Daylight's original characters spoke to the admiration the developers had for the evil movie creatures of that era. Importantly, they were a hit with those playing that game, and the developers were flooded with fan art and fan fiction, all based on these original characters, made by loyal fans hooked on the lore created by Behaviour. As Dead by Daylight's popularity began to grow, Behaviour was finally in a position to take a stab at a very special collaboration it had been eyeing for a long time.
We were able to leverage some of the long-standing relationships we have with a lot of licensors out there, and secure the rights to Halloween, so the very original Michael Myers and Laurie Strode, and that was the first foray into sort of that licensing world that we did in DVD, which was great.
Getting Michael Myers was a huge coup. Both Behaviour and the fans loved the collaboration, and crucially, it opened the door for even more crossovers. While it began with Michael Myers, Behaviour wasn't content to stop there. The studio branched out quickly, scooping all of the big 80s horror franchises like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Nightmare on Elm Street. But with the pantheon of classics complete, Behaviour looked towards the modern hits next. One of the earliest collaborations was between Behaviour Interactive and Lionsgate for the film series Saw, though maybe not the character you might expect.
I think the obvious answer for most people was Jigsaw, right? And he should have been the killer. And we didn't think so.
Instead, Behaviour chose Amanda Young, John Kramer's apprentice from the Saw films, or the Pig as she's known in Dead by Daylight.
Jigsaw wants to test people to essentially give them back their will to live, or the appreciation for how precious life is, which is almost a noble goal. Whereas Amanda cheats. Amanda wants people to suffer and wants people to die, and doesn't play the game fair, which made her a great prospect, a great candidate to be a killer, right? Because she's bad. She's a really bad person. And plus, it was kind of a nice little way to surprise people by bringing an interesting character that is very core to the Saw, but that fit better within our universe.
Behaviour didn't want to just add a famous character for the sake of it, but wanted to incorporate a horror franchise in a way that made sense for both Dead by Daylight and Saw. Amanda was a more natural fit, as her film counterpart was a true sadist compared to John Kramer's more philosophical teacher. Plus, choosing Amanda meant that as part of Amanda's kit, she's able to put survivors in the trap that she herself survived, the reverse bear trap.
Yeah, it's the most iconic trap I think people will think about when thinking about Saw. There's a lot of great other traps, but they're not as practical as the reverse bear trap 2. Being able to move around with this on your head and having the pressure to go play that game and to get out was a perfect fit for our rules as well in the game.
The Saw collaboration proved that Behaviour was capable of rewriting the horror canon to its will, subverting expectations by focusing on Amanda Young rather than John Kramer, and taking the reins of a franchise with the blessings of the license holder. However, integrating other characters wasn't always that simple. The rights to some horror franchise are tied up in all sorts of limbo. In Scream, for example, Ghostface's iconic look is actually owned by the original toy company that created the mask, Funworld, rather than the movie studio behind the films. And so, to get the iconic visage, Behaviour reached out directly to Funworld.
They were super excited, and as long as we created a brand new character that wore that mask, they were happy to collaborate with us.
With the license to Ghostface's iconic look secured, Behaviour had the fun task of creating an original killer to hide behind the mask. Although it didn't have the rights to the movie, it actually worked in the developer's favor because Ghostface's identity changes each time. As such, Behaviour was able to give its own spin on creating a new killer, a freelance journalist named Danny Johnson.
It was a perfect fit for us. The costume is more important than the person underneath. So it was a great opportunity for us to create that original character. And what was important for us to recreate those that even though it's always somebody different under the costume, there's some element of the Ghostface persona that is always kind of the same from character to character. We wanted to recreate these cool moments from the different stories that we've seen in the past, that very tongue-in-cheek, using comedy in the horrible things that Ghostface is doing.
Indeed, a lot of the humor for Ghostface appears in the description for his ability add-ons, whether it's his camera Philly or an add-on called Cheap Cologne that makes his presence known to survivors while at the same time marking them. Furthermore, Ghostface is able to lean around corners, which makes any encounter with him terrifying, if a little ridiculous. While Behaviour featured guest characters from another video game in 2017, when Left 4 Dead's Bill made it into Dead by Daylight, 2020's Silent Hill chapter was a full-blown collaboration that brought the killer Pyramid Head and survivor Cheryl Mason to the game.
If there's one license that I was obsessed with, it was Silent Hill. Yeah, I played those games many times, and it really struck my heart and my imagination. So being able to give a chance for these characters to be alive again in a video game, and especially to be able to control Pyramid Head, a character that you were not able to control before, was an amazing experience.
But Silent Hill being what it is, the collaboration wouldn't have been complete without incorporating the iconic location of the title, which Behaviour incorporated into the DLC as a special map, with an acute attention to detail.
It was non-negotiable. We would not have done Silent Hill without Silent Hill, right?
Yeah, usually when we go for a chapter, we want to be able to feature as much as we can. And Silent Hill is a very rich universe, and yes, it's Silent Hill. It's a place. The place is very important. So having the map in there was, like you say, Matt, non-negotiable.
Over the years, Silent Hill has had many different incarnations. In the earliest games, Silent Hill's otherworld was something that just happened. You'd be in a normal version of the town one moment, step through a door, and come out the other side into the nightmare realm. In later games, Silent Hill changed in real time, an effect that was borrowed for the live-action film adaptations. Behaviour's take involved a Silent Hill that was both normal and nightmarish at the same time.
I think that in the early days of the level design of this map, we wanted to go through a narrative so that the level would actually change, and so that there's some actions that you'd be able to do that would change the level to the dark world and maybe back. That sadly was just out of scope, something that we couldn't do at the time. So the best other thing that we could do is to make these two worlds live side by side. And in our universe, that makes sense. It's all recreated out of the memories, and it's a nightmare of this place. So both can coexist. We've also implemented that secret gameplay, right? That you can discover, make the clock bell ring and discover the secret, and that was also another way to show a bit of transformation, or to wink at the original transformation that we see in Silent Hill.
For Silent Hill, the location was just as important as the character's behavior set to incorporate into Dead by Daylight. But for the studio's other video game collaboration, the challenge was focused entirely on the character itself.
The size of the character was a challenge.
Is he the biggest killer we have in the game right now?
He is a big boy, biggest guy, tiny head, yes. And no, so of course there was that was a challenge just with the metrics. I think that with all the killers we've done in the past, making this unstoppable killing machine is something that we're used to do.
Nemesis is just one of the deadly foes players encounter in Resident Evil. Rather than just pick and choose, Behaviour decided to arm Nemesis with all the dangers present in Capcom's survival horror series, giving him the ability to summon zombies or infect players with the G virus. The ultimate goal was to get all the details right, with Behaviour conferring with Capcom to get even the tiniest attribute correct.
In this one, it was constant conversations, I remember, with the licensor and the people on the production team over there. And there's a lot of things that are really of critical importance for them, like whether it's like the exact color of the virus elements, or just the way the character is represented and the impact that it has.
We wanted to make sure that beyond the character of Nemesis, that the whole package facing this character felt like the other component of Resident Evil would be there as well.
However, one thing Nemesis is missing in Dead by Daylight is its iconic rocket launcher. Richard says the rocket launcher was indeed discussed internally, but ultimately Behaviour had to be true to Dead by Daylight first, and artillery just doesn't work in the game it created.
And that's one of the things also, right? Why we try to avoid weapons as much as possible, at least like ranged weapons, because they put some space between the killer and its victim. Dead by Daylight is very much about making sure that things are visceral and felt very strongly, and that's one of the reasons why weapons tend to not make it into the game.
Once Behaviour finished on Silent Hill, it returned its focus to movies, and with franchises like Halloween and Saw already under its belt, the developer looked abroad for its next collaboration, J-horror icon Sadako from The Ring.
First of all, Dead by Daylight is extremely well known in Japan. The content creators really enjoyed it, so when we reached out to the license holders over there, they knew the game, they knew what sort of thing we were trying to build, and they were already eager to get involved.
While getting the rights to use Sadako in Dead by Daylight wasn't an issue, there was still the challenge of bringing the unique lore of The Ring to the game. In particular, it was her modus operandi, killing her victims 7 days after they watch her cursed videotape. Even though Sadako was made to zip through TV sets just like in the movies, players can't very well sit around for 7 days to wait for the curse to kick in. So, Behaviour spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to make her week-long curse work.
We went through several prototypes and different ideas that we've played with. So ranging from, a match will end in 7 minutes, or we give a short amount of time, or we give notches that will go and increment for your curse, and we will replicate that with using the number 7.
Ultimately, 7 becomes a reoccurring stat for Sadako where her powers affect survivors, whether they're 7 meters away or their presence become known to her for 7 seconds. If you look at the character's unofficial wiki page, you find that many of her abilities revolve around the number 7, which was a fun way to incorporate the 7 days concept into all her abilities. Behaviour also wanted to add a new survivor to go along with Sadako, but this led to yet another puzzle. The only survivor from the movies was a child named Yuichi Asakawa. Unsurprisingly, Behaviour refused to add a child survivor to the game.
We wanted to introduce a survivor in there, but this story is sort of unique in the sense that nobody survives, right? Sadako, there's no survivors there. The only person that survives canonically in the story is this little child. And obviously we don't want to have children survivors in Dead by Daylight. We don't want to put kids on a meat hook.
The solution? Age up Yuichi into an adult, something Karakawa then approved as part of the Ring's official canon.
We worked together to create a version of that character that's all grown up, and the story that was told around the character, how he became a marine biologist, and all of the things around him were developed with the people at Kadokawa and making sure that this became canon to their universe, right? They wanted to make sure that that would be coherent in their world. So it was great for us to be able to sit down with people who created a legendary property and then sort of build and add to their world.
Dead by Daylight's most recent collaboration is a culmination of all that has come before. As killers grew in size and scope, Behaviour was forced to develop new abilities, character models, and maps, and all of these advancements can be seen with the Xenomorph. Indeed, the Xenomorph incorporates many of the advancements Behaviour developed on past collaborations, like changing up how levels work as it does with characters like Sadako and Pyramid Head, and incorporating larger and more ambitious killers like Nemesis. But with the Xenomorph, it was the first time they'd created a four-legged killer.
For the first time ever, we were going to have a character that could be on 2 legs or 4 legs at any time. And that was very important to the character and to its moveset, especially like to be able to work with the tunnels as well. We're, super happy with the result.
Indeed, one of the biggest technical marvels with the Xenomorph is how it can travel through unique tunnels, which have been added to all 36 maps. The tunneling ability was a way for Behaviour to channel one of the Xenomorph's primary characteristics, in this case, wall crawling, into the world of Dead by Daylight.
Very early in the production of the Alien, we had this idea, looking at the movie, looking at the character, that we would be able to climb along any surface. That would create a pretty cool power, like being able to go on walls, go on ceilings, surprise a survivor, but it was absolutely a nightmare to support. We had to find another idea that would replicate this fantasy. And the tunnels, I think, is doing a great job to do exactly that. Building the whole tunnel system and being able to support it along our many maps was extremely challenging, but absolutely worth it. What's really cool about the tunnel system is that it is there for real, right? You're using it in real time, you move around, and you actually can see as well what's happening above. So it gives you really that sense of being this character, being a predator, and being on the hunt.
The Xenomorph marks how far Behaviour has come with Dead by Daylight since its launch over 7 years ago, advancing the tech to the point where it can now incorporate almost anything it wants in an authentic way.
It's a bit of a dream, right? The Xenomorph was really high on our list of properties that we wanted in the game, but early on in the development of Dead by Daylight, we weren't ready. We needed to have the tech and the expertise to be able to really do this justice, because if we were going to do that, we didn't want to do it sort of halfway. So it was amazing. There's nothing but fans of the franchise on the team, and for most people it was a huge deal.
Even though the Xenomorph was on top of Behaviour's hit list and took years to get right, there's still more to come.
The list keeps growing also because it's been almost 10 years now that the game is up, so there have been some really interesting new properties that have been created in that time frame that can be brought into.
Although the developer refuses to give specifics, horror has enjoyed tremendous success since Dead by Daylight was first released. Could we see Pennywise make it into the game? Or maybe the sightless aliens from A Quiet Place? Only time will tell, but if you're into horror, there's really only one place you need to look: IGN.